Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to another special episode of Cops Court and Coffee. Now today I'm actually in Hempstead, New York, outside of Empire Bail Bonds, where I'm going to be meeting with the bail bond queen herself, Michelle Esquenazi. Come on, let's go inside. Welcome back guys, and as I promised, I am sitting in Hempstead, New York today with the bail bond queen herself. How are you, Michelle?
Good, I'm great.
Thanks for taking the time out. I really appreciate you inviting me into your office and granting me this interview, because this is actually the biggest thing that I've done so far with my channel. Thank you.
Oh, wow, thank you. I'm really flattered.
First question I have to start with pretty much is, what made you, or rather, how did you get involved in the whole bail bond industry?
Well, the short answer, the historical answer, is that I was a single mother of 3 very young children. I was on public assistance, and I had a cousin who married up, and she married some sort of bail bond guy. And then I went to her apartment to get her hand-me-downs one day, and he walked in, saw me, and said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm studying to be a paralegal." I was a young kid. And he said, "You want to come and interview at my bail bond office?" And I said, So I did, and then I got the job, and then within about a week or 2 I was running the joint, and I was in Manhattan. Then I realized that he was a bit of a corrupt bastard, and I thought I could probably do it myself. I took my family with me, and the rest is bail bond history.
Very good, very good. But now in theory, the whole bail bond industry is really dominated by men, and correct me if I'm wrong, but how is it being a woman in an industry that's dominated by men? And if it's difficult, why is it difficult?
Well, I don't think men are difficult. I think that they're a necessary evil, if you will. But difficult, no, they're simplistic. So the fact of the matter is that this industry was run by men, just like every other industry, but it is now 65% run by us.
Really, 65% by women?
That's right, and I run New York.
Very good. Now, you've grown Empire Bail Bonds essentially into an empire. How many locations do you actually have?
Well, we have 6 retail locations, which means that we have 6 operational offices in New York. Next year that'll be more, because we have more up north. We also own the insurance company now. So we have agents in other parts of the state, and we're also going to be moving into other states as well.
So in addition to the bail bonds, you run an insurance company?
Yes.
What type of insurance is that?
Bail line insurance, bail line surety. So our insurance company, essentially, if you will, insures the agencies. And we also, it's a P&C company, so we write other bonds too. Okay,
very good, very good. Now, how many bail bond agencies actually operate in this area?
Well, in New York City, there's not a whole hell of a lot. I'm going to say, like in New York, there's like 150 licensed agents, about 70 of them are operational. A handful of them operate in New York City.
So, any plans to gobble up those smaller companies to continue to grow your empire?
No, I have no interest in other...
Why not?
Why should I? I'm sure they're interested in me. I'm not interested in them.
But you're bigger than them.
I always will be.
Good answer. Fair answer.
I don't need them to...
Now, you guys essentially conduct the same business. Do you guys share information? Like, let's say someone comes into your office and you feel that now this is a risk. Do you share that information with other agencies?
In my capacity, not as the bail bond queen or the CEO of Empire Bail Bonds, which that's certainly one person.
Okay.
But in my capacity as the chairperson for the state organization on bail bonds, yes, I'm an information sharer.
And what is that state agency?
We seek to maintain the professionalism and the integrity of our industry. We monitor legislation and regulation. I lobby in Albany, things like that.
What do you lobby?
Liberalism.
Liberalism?
Yes. Free this, free phones, free bail, free everything. Everything is free, free, free. Get you free this, get you free that. Disrespectful law enforcement, free, 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 free. You know, everything's free.
Understandable, understandable. Now, I'm a big law enforcement guy. And, you know, I've been in law enforcement since April of '96. And I really enjoy a lot of law enforcement shows, especially Law and Order, the original. I don't like that SVU and the Criminal Intent, but there was always something that even now I still didn't quite understand. And normally when they get to court, the prosecution always says, you know, they want remand. And of course the defense attorney says, my client needs bail. And the judge always says either remand, but more importantly, they say, all right, bail is set at $100,000 or bond. What is the difference between them saying $100,000 cash or bond? How do you fit in there?
Well, I mean, it's a staunch example, if you will, because the majority of the bonds are not that high. But basically, it would mean that your family is going to pay $100,000 in green American money to procure your release, or they're going to take out a bail insurance policy. The bail bond industry is a regulated industry. It's regulated by the New York State Department of Insurance, which has turned into the New York State Department of Financial Services under Cuomo. You'll come in, you'll put up a piece of collateral, you'll proffer a piece of collateral such as your home that has enough equity in it to substantiate that sort of loan, and you'll pay a statutory premium, which in New York State is $6,260 on a $100,000 bail bond. And then we'll do a series of underwriting with you as the father and your wife and some family members. We call it the circle of love in our industry. It's a very, very important factor in a defendant's return because we simply and only insure a defendant's future appearance in court, not their behavior, just their appearance.
Just their appearance.
Right.
Okay. So now someone gets bail and they need Empire bail bonds. Can you, and I know you briefly went into it, but what is the actual process of me getting out of jail?
Once the bond is written, then one of my licensed bail agents will take the bond into the court in which your case is pending. The clerk will check all of our information to make sure that it's accurate, and then the clerk will present it to Your Honor. Okay. Your Honor will then swear in my bail agent and go, Mr. Young, raise your right hand. State your name and affiliation for the record. And do you swear to the contents of this document? And then maybe he'll refer to this. Do you swear to this? Is this your signature, sir? Yes, sir. And then, okay, bond is accepted. And the judge will sign off on a series of documents, one of which becomes a court order. It's signed and sealed, and it's at the direction to the Department of Corrections to let them know via court order, because it has a court seal, that this defendant has made bond on this specific case under this specific docket. These are the charges, and you are forthwith to release him based upon that fact.
Now, what happens if that person now fails to return to court? Because you said the bond essentially, I don't want to say guarantees them, but
it does.
The bond is for them to come back to court on the next day.
It insures them. Mm-hmm.
What happens when they fail to come back?
Well, I mean, you're going from 0 to 60, to be honest with you. You didn't talk about the meat and potatoes, the inside, the stuffing.
What's that? Because
the defendant doesn't just get a bond and then he fails to appear. He has to abide by our private company mandate. Which is he has to come physically once a week. We take pictures of him. We're constantly checking his information. We're on his social media. We're involved in his life. That's why the circle of life with auntie and grandma and brother signing for him are a very important component of the bail bond, because you have people that are vested in that defendant's appearance. So let's say you're on the 6th month and now the defendant is involved in the use of heroin, which is a very common New York thing now. I mean, when I was a kid, people didn't do heroin. It was just for Vietnam vets. Now it's like all the kids do heroin now. So 6 months later, grandma will call you and say, Miss Michelle, I just can't keep hold little Johnny. He won't come home. He won't do this, you know.
Now, can you just briefly walk me through what that process is to actually start looking for, I don't want to call them client, but
it's a client, defendant.
Okay. What's that process? Can you walk me through that process?
Well, we'll take the file, we work the pedigree, we make sure, you know, we take a look at the file, we make sure, you know, what's his last known address, does he have ID from North Carolina, you know, we just, you know, take a look at the guy's pedigree, try to figure out on a scale of 1 to 10, basically, how difficult is this guy going to be to find.
Now, all of these factors are in place, you've done everything that Empire can do to try and find this person, you can't find him. What happens with that collateral now that someone put up? I put up my house to get my son out. What happens then?
Well, we would say to you, call your bank and take a HELOC, take a home equity line of credit. Give me a check for $100 grand. It was nice to meet you.
That's it?
Yeah. I don't give a shit. What do I care?
Now,
I got to pay the judgment.
Which is what?
$100 grand. I got to pay the state of New York $100 grand.
Now I can't get this home equity loan. What happens then?
Then we're talking about other things. We as a family-run business, to be honest with you, we've been in business for over 20 years in New York, and as a family-run operation, we don't seek to put people out of their homes. What we would rather do with the people, if they're good people, is we'd rather make a payment agreement with them.
What do you think the number of agencies across the country are?
Wow, if I had to guess, I would say probably 10,000.
It's not a lot. I thought it would be a lot.
No, it's not a huge, but it is, you know, although the bail bond industry is not huge in and of itself, it is an integral component to the success of the criminal justice system.
What is the furthest that you've actually had to go and get someone back?
We have a guy right now that lives in Israel. We can't get him back. We know exactly where he is. We have like a fucking GPS on his ass. Yeah, we know exactly where he is. I know his name. He's running. He's a pedophile. He has sex abuse charges with his daughters. And he's running and he's with the wife. His name is Boris Maliev. And we can't get him. The Marshal Service can't get him. The feds can't get him. Nobody can get him. So writing a bond on an Israeli is double time, you know, in terms of liability. Because they could go. I mean, you could basically murder your wife in the Middle East, no problem, right? As long as she screws somebody else, she's murderable, right?
Murderable.
So, yeah, no problem. It's like a free pass. So, I'm just saying, you know, he's there having sex with his kids. Yeah, he's on Facebook every fucking day.
Amazing.
And nobody could get him. That one pisses me off. I wish I could just get on a plane and go to Israel and be like,
what's the issue? Why can't you or the government go get this individual?
Because they've been paid already. They're not that interested.
Aside from this individual, who's your worst client? Not even specific, but
my worst client in terms of what?
Just to deal with.
Oh, my worst client to deal with as of today, as of 2016, is your newbie young thug felony offender, is the 14 to 16 year old. And that's why it sickens me that a guy like Cuomo and the government is looking to bring the age down. Like,
okay, the governor of New York.
Yeah, like, are you like, what? Like, what I would encourage, de Blasio's like, hopefully one and done. You know what I'm saying? Like, one and done. So, but, you know, Cuomo's probably gonna stick around. So I'm saying to him, come into the bail bond office for a few days. See what we do. See why we're so successful at what we do. Because that's the biggest defendant problem right there. So giving them these free bail programs and these free passes and these diversion programs, and then they go out and kill cops? Are you kidding me?
Unfortunately, a New York City police officer lost his life because of that
Eric
program.
Holder.
But
Officer Eric Holder, by the way.
What is this diversion program?
You know what it is? They have so many programs for offenders They have so many free programs for people that are taking advantage of every part of the criminal justice system. And the only ones that benefit from it are the offenders themselves. The most appalling part of Officer Eric Holder dying and being not with us anymore is that when he failed to appear for the program, let's circle back to what I said to you about Michelle Esquenazi knows at 4:45 that a defendant warranted.
Yes.
Okay? That's pretty tight. And I run thousands and thousands and thousands of defendants, the majority of them, through New York City. Right? So he failed to appear for the diversion program. What happened? Nothing happened. Nothing happened until he committed another crime. The detectives wanted him for an arrest warrant, not for an FTA, which is a failure to appear, not for a bench warrant, not for not showing up for the diversion program. Nothing ever happened with that. That's not really talked about in the media too much. That nobody looked for this fucker. For you know how long? A long ass time, months. Enough time for him to kill a cop. Enough time for him to kill a cop. So if these state programs, all of them worked, which they don't, because none of them address recidivism. And recidivism prevails. Period, end of sentence.
Now, I asked you about your worst client. Tell me quickly about the client that, well, the story, I guess it's always a story, that you just felt, you know what, we have to help these people.
God.
Something that broke your heart, said, you know what, we have to help.
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's been so many of them because where Empire Bail Bonds is very team black sheep, is very team misfit. So a lot of the people that work for me, at some point they were arrested. I mean, there's tons of them, but to give you an example, one of our biggest, I think one of my biggest success stories is JoJo. She's my bodyguard. She's my right hand. And she's like a fucking brick shithouse. And she never got arrested before in her life. And a good Latino immigrant family, El Salvadorian people, they own a landscaping company, they own a home in Long Island. And one night they had a barbecue, they had a cookout for the mother's birthday or whatever, and everybody started hitting the sauce a little bit. And you know, things got out of hand, whatever, and the sister kind of stepped to the mother. Well, JoJo, like I said, she's a building. She not only laid her sister out felony style, but she also attacked the car felony style with a bat.
Okay.
So she, allegedly, you know, whatever. So she went to lockup. You know, cops came, locked her up for felony assault, weapon, you know, property damage, all that shit. She gets a $5,000 bond. The mother comes in here, doesn't speak a word of English. She speaks only Spanish. But I'm Cuban, so puedo hablar con ella en español, si, you know, si algo pasó. So anyway, I'm talking to her in Spanish, and she was like, and she was shaking. She was shaking because Jocelyn, even though she's huge, that's her baby. That's her baby girl. Yes. So, and she's got one kid in the hospital, one kid in jail. Last night was her birthday. So unlike what I normally do, because I usually let the bodies go back to the jail and get booked out of the jail rather than pluck them out of arraignment, I got her out of arraignment for the mother. And when I brought her back here, it was like, you know, the Bo Derek movie?
Yes.
It was like, and you know, and then they hugged and everything, and it was a fabulous moment. And you know, she brought me amazing food the next day, and we were eating like queens and kings. It was fabulous. So, what happened was many months later, I said to my right-hand girl, I said to Pat, she's right up there, she's my bodyguard too. She's in everything, she's always with me. She's like, you know, my sister. But anyway, I said, you know, I need somebody to work the window to do the defendant case tracking, but I need a certain type at the window. I need somebody that's docile enough, that's strong enough, that can deal with the defendants, that's not going to become belligerent with the defendant population. It's a very unique place to be because it can become warlike in the waiting room, even though it's a secure environment.
Okay.
So you need to keep them moving. You can't have a lot of them in there checking in at one time. So she says to me, what about Jocelyn Gonzalez, boss? And I said, oh, bring her in here. Let me talk to her. I sit her down. I said, let me ask you a question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? She goes, I want to be fixing cars. I go, why? Do you fix cars now? Like, are you a mechanic or something? She goes, no. I go, well, then how do you know you're going to be able to know how to fix cars? She goes, because if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Okay. I said, you ever consider a career in criminal justice? And she says, look at me. Because, you know, she's a little, you know, boy-looking, huge, you know, type girl. And I said, you look good to me. I said, could you be here on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, 8:59? That was about 6 years ago. She runs all my defendants in Nassau County, and everybody that is out on a bracelet with Empire in New York, in the state of New York, goes through her phone, goes through her computer, comes to me, and we make these decisions collectively.
So you said her bail was $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most that you've ever paid out to get someone out?
We just did a $2 million bond.
$2 million?
Yeah.
I have to ask, for what?
Yeah, it was a DV case, domestic violence. The guy had like an arsenal of weapons. They had a thing under his house where they found like a boatload of firearms.
Is there anything that I did not ask you that you want to share?
Yes, you did not ask me about my children.
Please share.
I have 4 amazing children. I have Shayna Rose is 26, Alana Gabrielle is 24, Michael Corey is 22, and Mariah Ruby is 14. So they are truly what keeps their mother going and what defines me really as a human.
Are they going to join the family business?
The first one's a teacher. She's all about rainbows and peace and love. And the second one is the vice president of my insurance company. She graduated NYU. Mike is going to be graduating Temple, and he's going to join the family business and take the insurance company a bit more national. And Mariah, I think maybe one day will have her own TV show.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Type of TV show?
It'll probably be called the Mariah Ruby Show. She's just like that type of presence. Yeah, she's like me, but, you know, a different generation of me.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. And like I said, this is probably the biggest thing that I've ever done. Normally, when I started with my podcast, we're doing something either Skype or over the phone, but this is truly, truly an amazing thing for me. And
oh, it's my pleasure. Anything for New York State, for law enforcement in New York. That's what we're all about.
Thank you so much.
Empire leads blue.
Thank you. That was an amazing interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank Michelle and her staff at Empire Bail Bonds. I want to thank my man Ed for helping me today with the camera work, the audio, and everything that makes Top Sport locally possible. And remember, guys, listen, as I always say, no one cares like we do, and I'll see you guys in the next video.